Welcome to Blueprint Boost for Contractors, the podcast that's your go-to source for unlocking the secrets to successful marketing, gaining valuable insights, and growing your contracting business with less stress. Your host is David Brooks, and he's thrilled to be your guide on this journey. As a seasoned expert in the contracting industry, David understands the challenges you face. That's why each episode is crafted to provide you with actionable strategies and proven blueprints to boost your business to new heights.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the podcast. I'm your host, David Brooks, powered by Contractor Rhino. We have a special guest with us for this podcast episode. I'll allow him to introduce himself.
I'm Leland Smith from Service Champions here in Southern California, and glad to be part of the podcast today.
All right. Well, welcome, Leland. We appreciate you coming on.
Yes, sir.
So I know you have a wealth of knowledge and experience that we want to be able to dig into for this episode. But particularly, I think we can start off with, over the course and experience of your particular career, what have been some of the strategies that you've been able to implement to not only lead to yourself to be able to be successful, but what are some of the lessons that you've learned along the way? We know it's many, but if you could think of just a few, we would appreciate it.
Well, first of all, I had a company before Service Champions called Allied, and in 1992, there was a group called CSG, and Jim Abrams was running that. And he taught me something that I do today. There's like two or three things. And the key thing, well, I'll tell you the two or three things in a minute, but the key thing I've learned was I'm not that smart. So you have to surround yourself with smart people. And if you want to grow, in my case, I would look for a group of guys. In this first CSG group, I met a guy named Ron McCann who was always talked about on stage. And luckily I had dinner with him with the other 5 people that they talked on stage, all the top guys. And from that point on, I always try to create a group that for years we would talk on Tuesday about anything. There's no agenda, any problems you're having. Every third Tuesday, we would share financials. And that was huge for me to see where I was at certain places and where they were. But I was just always wanted to be the smallest guy in the group, because if you're the top guy in the group, it's an ego thing. I wanted to be the quiet, humble guy, listening to the ego guys talk. And whenever I got to the top of the group, I'd get out of it and get into another group. So learning from other people is a key thing. And I was telling you earlier that Ron McCann told me early on, don't always be a taker, be a giver. And you got to give it back once you learn how to do it. So when I started Service Champions, those 3 things that were number one, more than anything, was club memberships. When I sold in 1919, I had 25,000 club memberships on a monthly basis. I never gave any of them away. They were all sold. We didn't give them away on new systems. The tech sold them. So we had 50,000 tune-ups to do a year. And we never sent a tech home early. They ran 3 calls a day, 3 or 4 when it was hot, but never more than that, because it takes a good hour and a half to do a good tune-up, to sell the clubs and get the customers involved in it. And once they invest in the club membership, you've got them. They're going to buy. And I tell our techs that I'd rather you sell a $19 a month club membership on a credit card than a $40,000 system. Because if you sell the club, we're going to get the 40. But if you haven't impressed them enough to invest $19 a month to have their system maintained twice a year, you're never going to get that sell. So that was the number one, was clubs. Number 2, I learned, be the most expensive. Don't be the cheap guys are never the largest. So being the most expensive, you can pay your people better than anybody else. And that was a key thing. Pay your people better than anybody else. And we had very, very low turnover because we paid so well. But to make that, paying your guys well, charging the most, you have to deliver that high quality. You have to deliver that Rolls Royce, that Mercedes quality. You can't deliver a Hyundai quality. And so many people are out there that want to be cheap, but they're cutting the corners. They're not doing everything. We replace 100% of everything, line sets, plenums, and I'm not that technical, but I know it's everything that we do that we replace. We don't cut corners trying to save money because we're charging enough to do it right. And customers see that. And I'd say out of 100 customers here in Orange County, we are by far the most expensive. One or two out of 100 will complain, and we'll do whatever we can to make them happy. And actually, we have a happy money promise that says if you're not happy and I can't make you happy, you don't have to pay. And we will give things away free. If it's a $40,000 system, we might discount it down. But if it's a $1,000 repair or something, we just give it away because I want to go back and find out why that customer was upset that would even make the call, because customers don't call you just to complain. They're calling you to tell you you have a tech in the field that's not doing their job, and you've got to find that out and fix that. But so those are the key. Oh, the other one was a success rate. You got to track what you do, and you got to track your techs in the field. And the success rate was out of 100 calls, how many turned into sales? And if of a 10-year or older system, we had 10 of them, we would expect 30 to 40% of those to turn to a lead and sell 60% or more of those. And that's what we would track for our techs for turning leads and our salespeople for selling. So hope that helped a little bit.
No, that was some really great information and great, not only great information to be able to hear, but just being able to hold yourself to a higher standard. And like you said, not being the cheapest. And a lot of people are just doing cheap work and not doing the work properly. So, making sure that you're doing a great job, you're spending time with the customer and you're listening to those concerns too, because like you said, they could be telling you like, hey, like you have a tech out in the field that may not be representing the business properly. So you
Right.
definitely want to make sure that, everyone on a team understands what world-class, excellent customer service means.
And to me, customer service is when that customer calls, you don't let them hang up until they're happy. And we teach our call center agents, even a tech in the field, if he's upset, what would you want your family treated like if that was your mother, if that was your brother that's complaining to you? How would you want them treated? And do that. I don't care what it is. If you think that's how you want your family treated, do it. If we don't agree with it, you'll never get in trouble. We'll just teach you how to make a better decision. But as long as you treat that customer like family, you'll never go wrong. And they'll respect that. But don't hang up. If you have to give it away or even wow them and give them a couple $100 gift card for the inconvenience that they went through, anything that you can do to get that customer happy and wowed.
Mhm. You really have to be able to give the customer that kind of level of attention. Like you said, not hanging up until they're satisfied. Not when you feel like, hey, we've done everything on our end.
Yeah.
Have you really?
Yeah. And like I said, just new people, they're told, do what you got to do. If that's your mother, do whatever you think you'd want her treated like. And they haven't heard that before, but we support it, and because we charge enough. And I was going to tell you, David, that I have no idea what our competitors in Orange County or in Southern California do. I don't care what they do. I pay attention to people in Midwest, East Coast, Northern California, other places, just to make sure that I'm not doing what our competitors are doing. I'm doing things that are totally unique and different that they don't know about and they don't do. And that's where I've learned everything that made me a success was learning from being a $20 million company and having friends that were $100 and $120 million companies. How did they get there? How did they get to that point? And you've got to always surround yourself with people that are smarter than you, bigger than you, and make sure they share their financials, because there's so many guys out there that will brag about how great they are.
Mhm.
They won't show you a financial because they're not making it. So
No, that's really sound and practical advice. And when you're going through that journey of being able to expand and grow the business, a core part of that is being able to build, high performance team and a valuable team. Can you talk about your company culture and what you do for team building?
Um, the first thing the team building part of it, I think it has made us the most successful. I sold in 19, reinvested, we sold again, I'm reinvested. So I'm the chairman of the board of our current group. But when I was doing it by myself, about 14 to 15 years of that 20, we trained our own techs. And meaning that we didn't train them technically as much as we hired personality. We would recruit every Wednesday and we'd have a 14-week class and we wanted about 20 in that class. And we would train them, but it'd be role play. We had an attic, we'd stick them in an attic because they had to do a tune-up. So we put them up there for 2 hours at 120 degrees and we'd lose one or two. And after we did all that, we trained them to our culture, what we want, treating people like family, doing the quality work. We wouldn't let them do anything less than quality work. So we put them out during the training with the top performers that we have, bring them back in, tell us what you learned, put them back out again for those 14 weeks. And then their first week out, we would send the manager behind him to see the quality of work that he did. And he had to turn leads. He had to be able to build value. He had to sell clubs because clubs were the most important. That if they weren't at least 50%, meaning they walked in the house, they weren't a club member, 50% of the time they had to walk out. And if they didn't earn a bonus. That was the most important of building that base of customers that we could always, when September and October come, people get slow. We were never slow because we always had calls to run. And so that part of it, but the owners have got to be there. I had an ex-employee talked about, do I have to be in the meetings? Do I have to be there? And I said, that's everything. 100% of the meetings you need to be there. They need to see you there and you need to compliment the people and build that respect. You don't ever expect to get the respect. You have to earn the respect. Then they'll give you the respect. And your techs have to be happy about what they're doing. They have to know what they represent. They have to know if I'm selling this, it's going to be put in the right way. And I know if there's a complaint, they're going to be handled properly. So that culture that we build is not in our industry. And first 2 or 3 years of trying to hire techs from other competitors, they weren't there and they couldn't understand the prices we were charging. So we decided we're training our own. So these guys coming in didn't know any different of the prices, but they knew that we had quality work. Customers were excited about it. And it was just a total different outlook from what our competitors were doing compared to what we were doing. Hope that answered the question for you.
No, that answered it. That answered it perfectly. That training part, what you instilled and really, building and fostering, that great culture, and being able to hold the team accountable for really doing good work and then selling those memberships was vital to the success of moving things forward.
And one thing is, I'm more of a 6 to 7 day work guy. I was there every day, generally the first one there in the morning, sometimes the last, but I would always make sure everybody was treated the same. Jim Dotson, which I think is probably the best salesperson in the country, if he made a mistake, he'd get called on it just like anybody else. I wouldn't let one guy get away with something and an old guy not be held accountable and a new guy be held accountable. They knew everybody was going to be held accountable. And that's how the quality of work was there. We had to deliver high quality tune-ups, installs, whatever we were doing, it had to be the top quality because we're charging that top dollar price.
Mhm. No, accountability and not, being, holding everyone to that same standard. Definitely important. You have sometimes where it's like, oh, that's my guy. And, my guy is not going to get the criticism or feedback, or I'm not going to correct them because that's just my guy.
Yeah. And that's looks really bad to your other team. It's just not a good thing for your team to see.
Mhm. I agree. Now, what advice would you give for those that are trying to expand and really grow and take things to the next level, but they're just not sure how to go about doing that?
Um, Two things. First one, as I said before, when I started going to, it was Airtime 500, now called Certain Path. I would go and they would talk about people or companies that were doing really good. I'd go find them at the break. I'd find them at lunch. I'd find them at the next break. I'd ask them out to dinner. And I would create that friendship so I could go visit them in the next month to see what they're doing and talk with them. And creating that 4 or 5 companies together, you learn so much what other people are doing. You might not always agree, but you might get 2 or 3 answers to your problem, and one of them will fit you perfectly. And just realizing that you don't know it and you've got to find that out. The other side of it that I see, even the companies we're buying these days, um, training isn't there. We trained every single day at 7 o'clock in the morning, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. And we were constantly training whatever we were weak at. If we weren't hitting our clubs right, if we weren't turning leads correctly, whatever it was, we were every week we trained. And I see companies that don't do any training and or they'll do 1 day a week and it's just throwing out numbers but not training. And if you got a guy that's struggling, and he's a good guy, put him in a truck with the best guy you got for a couple of days to see what's supposed to happen. And so those are the 2 things: is surround yourself to be trained by the best. Always surround yourself with people that are bigger and better than you. Don't try to be the guy bragging how great you are. And number 2, train your people, get them to do well. I'll just give you an example, like our 14-week training period, when we bring in guys in 21, 22, sometimes they'll make 80 to 100,000 their first year. And Christian Corrin is a good example. He came in 9 months, he made 100 grand. This next year, he made 120. Next year, he made 140. He was living at home with his parents and he bought a house bigger than his parents' house. He bought his girlfriend a BMW and bought himself a Mercedes, and he's 25. And now he's at a path of selling over 6 million, and he'll make around 600 to 700,000 now, and he's still in his 20s. So
That's amazing. That is a really great story to it's, you don't have to limit yourself. If you have good training and a good group and good support, then sky's the limit for the team, the organization. And training, like you said, is really missing. It's, we're gonna get together and and it's not a follow through, it's not well thought out, it's just put together and then you go on and go about your normal day to day. But training and being able to take training seriously is definitely vitally important for your organization.
and David, the other part of the culture we have is we have training, but if a tech is struggling, all of our techs get along, they'll call another tech. They'll walk out of a sale that they didn't go and they'll call Dotson or they'll call somebody and goes, this is what I did, what should I have done? And they help each other. They're constantly trying to help each other in addition to the training we have. So it's a good culture to have people that they know everybody's treated the same, everybody's going to win. And then also we do trips. We would go to Mexico sometimes, we go to Vegas sometimes and celebrate it and celebrate those. We have a kickoff party that we have. So we did a lot of celebrating for those and recognizing those are doing extremely well at these parties.
That's nice. I know the team appreciated that and that kind of collaboration and team environment. And that's great that they can really lean on each other to be able to get that advice. And it's not just, hey, I'm just going to hold on to that. And it just didn't turn out. And it's no room for feedback because feedback is important. Like you won't know how to get better or improve if you don't have someone to bounce that hey, tell me what I could do better off of.
Right. So what we do, we also send out daily reports. Either you're a maintenance tech, a service tech, or a salesperson. We will send out reports and show how everybody's performing. So if you're underperforming, you know who is performing, so you know who to call if you want to try to get help. And that's really helped a lot and helped me as well. What manager do I talk to about his team? Why aren't they performing? Because I'm a believer that typically you don't have bad techs, you have bad managers. Because if a manager is not fixing that tech and he's letting him do the things that aren't working, and you ask him about it and he hasn't done anything, it's not the tech's fault. It's the manager is not managing that tech and motivating that tech to get better and training with it.
No, that's good. Responsibility on the manager's part to be able to make sure that the team is getting the support that they need so
Yes,
that when they're experiencing difficulty, they can be pulled up out of it.
absolutely.
Mhm. Now, what advice would you give to those who may be experiencing different times of adversity, company going through a crisis, things not going well, maybe economic downturns or operational challenges?
Well, I will tell you one thing. In 2008, when the recession or whatever they called it, I was in a group and I was probably 30 million or so. And the $100 million guy, Mark Aiken and Dave Geiger, who own Horizon out of Delaware, Mark Aiken said, "We're not going to play this game." And we were talking on the phone that we're not going to go through recession. We're going to go above it. We're going to take our customers, our competitors' customers. So we spent more money on marketing and kept our guys busy and took more customers out of it. And not one of us in that group fell back during that period. It didn't affect us because we said we're not going to do it. And we worked together and we did well. Where most of the people were laying off people and not hitting the revenues, we didn't experience any of that. I think a lot of it's an attitude, understanding economy is economy, but you got to adjust yourself sometimes, and you might have to adjust the pricing, but you got to adjust yourself when you walk into a customer's home and just make slight adjustments. But that's the only time in the last 20 years that they said we had a recession and we didn't play the game.
Well, that's great
Now,
advice, doubling down on that.
if I was by myself, I would have probably listened to everybody else and said, okay, this is why we're failing. This is why we're losing money, and I can't help it. But being around people that are bigger and better than you, that are smarter than you, I just remember he said, we're not going to play that game. And we did. So.
Mhm. No, that's excellent. I think, like I said, a lot of times people looked, oh, we got to cut back, we got to cut budget, but expect things to still be at the same level or have some kind of growth. And it's really, you just handicapped yourself.
That's it.
Mhm.
It's all an attitude, man. You've got to be able to be there and motivate your techs, like the ex-employee that didn't want to go to any of the meetings. You've got to be at every meeting and motivate these guys and tell them we can do this. This is how we're going to do it. And if you're not succeeding, look at your daily sheets, call the guys who are succeeding and find out what they're doing. Because I always told them, I don't make a dime unless you make a dollar, and my life is about making you that dollar. So I don't make money unless they make it. So I'm making I'm trying to get them to make as much as they possibly can.
Mhm. No, that was excellent approach to be able to have. And doubling down on that, when we talk about crafting a vision and trying to move things forward, what tips could you give or recommend to be able to keep your long-term business goals into clear view and not constantly putting them off?
Um, in our company, we documented everything. We were very structured. Um, it was different than most companies that they don't have things in writing or they don't explain things. But our goals are simple that, we want to make the money. I want them to make the money, but we have to have happy customers because we can't grow if we're cutting corners and pissing off customers. So the ratings were really important. Getting reviews were important to have more customers come back in. But it's just, like I said, it's not that complicated. And, this one group, certain path. I did everything they told me to do and what Jim Abrams told me. And I did, but you do it every day. You can't do some of the things you say and do it some of the days, or do it for a week and just go away for a month and not do it. You've got to really be there, make sure your pricing is right, make sure the quality is right, make sure the attitude of your employees are right, motivate them, get them excited, and have events that celebrate and acknowledge those that are doing good, then try to help those to get better. Because when you see, I had the last 2 years, we had two guys that made $1 million. They didn't sell $1 million. They earned $1 million on commissions for being that good of salespeople. And when I tell people that, they sometimes don't believe me, but they're awesome salespeople and they made a lot of money. And our guys are doing that more and more. And we're not a ripoff company at all. We're the Rolls Royce, we're the Bentleys, we're the Mercedes of the industry, because we will spend more money on any job that we do, no matter if it's ducts or insulation, whatever it is, we're going to do it of high quality, and we're not going to cut corners ever. I'd rather not make any money on a job and do it right than try to cut the corners so we can make money.
Well, that's a great testament statement right there. Doing it right job and really being able to hold to that standard, because sometimes people feel like they have to lower it.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you one thing that we do. If I know tomorrow we don't have a job and I've got an install crew not working, I will tell the salespeople, give it away if you have to. I don't care if I make any money or not. I want that install crew family fed. I want them to make money so they get paid. And I don't care if I don't get any money on that, but it's important that we work as a team and they know that we're getting them taken care of, that they have a job every day, that whenever possible. So it is certainly, you've got to be involved. You've got to communicate. You've got to have a heart in it. You've got to really love your people. And I always say, 19 when I sold, I think I had 300 employees. I didn't like a lot of them, but I respected them. And I never told them I didn't like them, but I respected them because of what they could do. And that's what you've got to do, is if you like the guy or not, if he's selling and doing great and doing good with people, you don't have to like them, just respect them. And if you respect people, they'll respect you back. Then that kind of carries down to the customers as well.
No, I do. I feel that sentiment 1,000%. And you don't have to particularly like the person, right? But if
Right.
they're holding true to their job and doing what they're supposed to be doing, then that is all the more betterment. I think sometimes people make it too personal.
Right. It's a business, and we're out there to win, and everybody's got to win. And everybody's got to go home to their in-home sales manager. That's their wife. Now, if you piss them off at work, they're going to go home to your in-home sales manager and piss her off, and now you've got a problem. So you always want to motivate your employees to go home and talk how great things are. So your wife or your in-home sales manager is motivating them. And so when we get together, I want the wife to come up and tell me how great things are, other than what a jerk I am because I'm not treating her husband right. And so it's a really good thing to have that in-home sales manager happy, because you want good things being said at home. So when he comes in, he's feeling good about things.
No, that's true. It carries over to from work to home and back from home to work. So if you could have that positive environment to be in, and a great supporting team, and the family's getting fed, then hey, they're going to go out and keep performing.
That's it.
Well, Leland, we appreciate it. Do we have any last parting words of wisdom?
Well, I've got a couple of things. One thing, I'd suggest anybody to go out and buy a book called Double Your Profits. It's by Bob Pfeiffer. It saved me hundreds of thousands. And basically, it's two sections. It talks about reviewing your employees as you grow. You have a tendency to hire employees, and if they're not working out, you hire another one, but you don't get rid of the one. And it tells you to go through every one of your employees and ask yourself, if I let this employee go today, what would happen? And if you say nothing, that person is not performing. Then the last part of the book is, which I spent months on when I sold, go through every expense that you have. Is this an expense that you really need? If you eliminate this expense, is it going to hurt your company, or is it just an unnecessary expense? And that's how you can get up to the 25% bottom line. But it's a great book. It's a good reading, and I suggest people do that. The other side of it is, this industry is about right now about people selling their company or getting ready to sell your company. I'm very fortunate to be involved with the Odyssey Investment Group, which is a great group and great people. And it's just a good thing to have a good group like that. So one thing I would suggest to anybody, if you're looking to sell or thinking about selling, talk to these people. Heck, I'll give you my phone number and you can call me. I'll tell you what I think about it. I'm always willing to help people in any way. And, but you've got to be looking at that these days, because it's when I sold in 19, I think there's like 3 or 4 equity groups. There's like 80 and 90 or 100 now. They're out there and they're looking for these companies. And I met with a guy yesterday that was in the restoration business, and we just talked, and I said, you need to talk to these people that are calling you just to get information. If you don't want to sell, it's okay, but get the information. Because when I sold, I was going to sell in 3 years, and they gave me a price that I thought I'd get in 3 years. So you might be surprised what your company's worth. But and then you got to think about, in my case, I reinvested with a company called Center Oak, and in 18 months, I got 5 times my money back because we did so well. Reinvested with Odyssey, and a similar thing will happen there. So a lot of good information, but I just think we're in an industry right now that the key things are you've got to treat your people. And what I see the biggest thing is owners don't want to work. Or I see people that work for me that made a lot of money, that they want to start their own company, but they don't know the back end. So they just want to show up for a day or two and make all the money that I was making or other people are making. And it doesn't work that way. But you can make a lot of money in the industry. You just got to manage it, treat your people right, and surround yourself with people that are better than what you are. Be humble, be quiet. I always said I'd take them out to dinner, I'd get them drunk, I'd ask a lot of questions, and I shut the hell up and took notes. And then about a week later, I call them, oh, hey, can I come by and see you? And I do more site visits. And I would walk in, and a good friend today, I would walk into his company and I would say, Bill, I just want to, let's talk for like an hour. I'd like to spend the next whole day or maybe tomorrow sitting with your dispatcher, sitting with your people and see what they're really doing. Because everything he was telling me they're doing, they weren't doing. They were doing it a different way, which was good because you can see how they do it. Then you can take it back and do it. So those site visits were really critical for me throughout the years to do. And that's why I'm always open. Our equity group doesn't like it now, but prior to selling, I don't care who you were, if you wanted to come in, I would show you what we did. I would give you anything that you wanted, because it's not that complicated. It's just something you've got to do every day, and you've got to do it consistently, and you got to have a heart for it. So if anybody wants to talk to me, maybe you'll give out the phone number or whatever. I don't mind. I always tell them this is the number my kids call me on. And, if you want to talk, I'll be glad to talk with you. As long as you're not in our area, we're competing. I can't help you against us. But if you're outside the area, I'll tell you anything you want to know.
Yeah. Amazing. Excellent, Leland. Excellent.
All right, ma'am.
All right. Well, we appreciate you coming on.
Well, I hope I helped a little bit.
No, you definitely helped with it. I know the audience is going to be able to appreciate this. Everyone, make sure you check Leland out, and make sure you tune into the next episode. Until next time.
Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Blueprint Boost for Contractors. We hope you found today's insights and strategies valuable for your contracting business. If you enjoyed the episode, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and please leave us a review. Your feedback helps us bring content that truly matters.